Today we're going to learn Shabbat Daf Tzadi Daled. Today's daf is dedicated in memory of Devorah Bat Moshe V'Rachel, Zichrona Levracha, by Josh Kirsch, and by Michael Lawrence in honor of his wife Lisa on her birthday. He's very proud of your dedication to learning Daf Yomi and wishes you many years of continued learning on Mea V'Esrim. I just want to mention that next Sunday we're having Hadron Community Sunday, and I'll be teaching. I'm going to have a Zoom class for people in the States who can't make the Zoom in the morning on a regular basis. We'll be having, and maybe we'll do this on a semi-regular basis, I'll be having a shiur at 8:30 Israel time. So that would be New York time, Eastern time at 1:30 and then so on. So anyone who wants to join, there'll be a Zoom, I'll give the regular daf shiur, and then we'll have a Q&A after. So you can email questions before if you'd like, and anyway, we'll try it out, see how it goes, and then maybe we'll continue it on a more regular basis. Okay, we're going to start now. Regular, I mean maybe once a month, something like that, not on a daily basis. Okay, we're going to start with the Mishnah at the bottom of Tzadi Gimel Amud Bet. Hamotzi ochalim pachot mikishiur bekli patur af al kli shakli tfelalo. Somebody takes out food. Oh yes, it's in addition to the morning daf. I'll be teaching the regular Zoom, on Sunday, and I'll be posting it online. So anyone who wants to listen at the regular time can listen at the regular time. The class will be in addition to the regular. Okay, so what in the Mishnah it says, if one takes out food less than a shiur bekli. So that means I took out less than a fig's worth of food, let's say, and I carry it out in a utensil. So I'm not obligated on the food. The question is, am I obligated on the utensil? I carried out a utensil. So the Mishnah says no. Patur afal kli. Why? Shakli tfelalo. This is something that comes up in all sorts of halachot about something that is secondary. Something that's secondary we often look at as if it's not there. Okay, there's actually a whole debate about how we look at it. Is it not there at all, or is it just that it's secondary? Okay, so there's a whole debate. I'm not going to get into that. But we basically say this kli is not necessary. So therefore, the kli is only for the food, and the food is not enough of a shiur. So therefore, I'm not obligated. The Yerushalmi distinguishes here between, interestingly, they say, well, it depends what you're carrying in the kli. If it's something like, it's something big, okay, well, obviously it's not that big. It's less than a fig. Let's say it's an olive, one olive in a kli. Now, one olive in a kli, you don't need a kli for carrying an olive. But they say if you're carrying little seeds, let's say, teeny little seeds, and you would carry that in your hand and it would slip through your fingers and you need the utensil to carry it. So according to the Yerushalmi, you'd actually be obligated then for carrying out the kli, because you do actually need the kli. Because if it weren't for the kli, all the items would fall on the floor. But that doesn't say so in our Mishnah. It's just something the Yerushalmi adds. Our Mishnah says that it sounds like you're not obligated for utensil at all because the kli is secondary. If you carry a live person on a bed, okay, so you carry out a bed on Shabbat with a live person on it, you're patur af al hamita. You're not obligated for carrying the person, and you're not obligated for carrying the bed. Why? Well, the live person you're not obligated for carrying because we have a concept in halacha called chayin of seit atzmo. That means a person actually carries themselves. Okay, that means if I'm carrying a person, generally they're going to help me with the weight, can bear their weight. And this is the difference between someone who can walk versus someone who can't walk. Whereas if it's a baby, so I'm entirely carrying that baby because the baby can't walk themselves, and therefore all the weight is on me, that would be asur midoraita. Okay, by Torah law. But if I can do it myself, if someone can walk by themselves and I carry them, then I'm not actually obligated because they are helping me out with carrying. I'm not actually fully carrying a load. So now you have two things going on. You have the live person that you're carrying, which you're not obligated for. And then again, this is by Torah law, you're not obligated. And then you have a bed, which you're carrying the live person on the bed, and the bed is secondary to the live person. You don't need the bed outside. You just need to carry the person outside. So therefore, you're patur af al hamita shat mita tfelalo. Et hamed b'mita. What if you're carrying a dead person in a bed? Now there, obviously, the dead person can't carry themselves. So you're chayav. V'chein kezayit min hamedu, kezayit min hanavela, chadasha min hasheretz. If you carry, again, these are significant items because they're items that would create the status of impurity because they're significant. So if you have a size of an olive of a dead body, or size of an olive of a dead animal, or a lentil size of a sheretz, because that's tameh for a sheretz, all those you're going to be obligated. Now, why are you carrying these tameh items outside? Because you don't want them in your house. Now, if you don't want them in your house, this is not actually the regular malacha. Usually you carry out because you want something outside. You want to bring it to somewhere. Here, you just want to get rid of it. So, Rabbi Shimon Poter, this is the famous machloket malacha she'einat tzricha legufa. It's the machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Okay, if you remember, they argue about a bunch of different things. One is davar she'eino mitkaven, if your intent is not to do the malacha. There, Rabbi Shimon actually allows it entirely. He's matir. Here, pay close attention. He says patur. Patur means patur avalas asur. That means he's exempt from Torah law, but he's actually obligated by rabbinic law. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, which is the Tanna Kama in our Mishnah, it's forbidden by Torah law. Okay, he doesn't care that you're not doing it for the same reason. We're going to talk about in 1 second how exactly we define malacha she'einat tzricha legufa. But the point is that Rabbi Yehuda thinks that's asur midoraita also. So there's a big machlok at Rashi and Tosfot, and it comes up here basically, which is Tosfot. I'm going to start with Tosfot, even though usually we start with Rashi. Tosfot seems to be the more simple understanding. Generally, we view malacha she'einat tzricha legufa. This is how we defined it until now generally, which is you don't need it for the reason they did it in the Mishkan. You're doing the act, but for a different purpose. So instead of carrying something outside because you want it outside and you need it in the new domain, here you're carrying it because you don't want it in the domain that it's in. You want to get rid of it. So according to Tosfot, you're doing it for a different purpose. Instead of bringing it in somewhere, you're trying to get it out from somewhere. Okay, so it's different. Like chofer guma v'tzarich le'ofra. You dig a hole. You don't need the hole. You need the dirt inside. So it's a different purpose than for digging, right? It's not the same reason. Not the same way they did it in the Mishkan, or for the same purpose they did it in the Mishkan. Rashi says, if you look at Rashi, it's very interesting. Rashi says in Rabbi Shimon Poter in our Mishnah, he says, "Afilu b'meit shalem dehavim malacha she'einat tzricha legufa," and here he says, "Any malacha she'einat tzricha legufa ela lissal kame alav." Now here he focuses on the words, even though I said it before, that wasn't the focus. He wants to get rid of it. Havim malacha she'einat tzricha legufa. Why does he say this? Dibirtsono lo ba'alo. Now if you look at the maid, it's the classic case, the dead body. You don't want to have to be in this scenario. You don't want a dead person in your house. You don't, right? Maybe likely it was someone who was a relative of yours, and you certainly didn't want that situation. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon says, this is not malachet machshevet because it's not anything. What's malachet machshevet? Creative act, something you want, something you're interested in. Here, you really didn't want the person to die. You don't want to have to get rid of it from your house. You don't want the whole thing in general. It's almost, the whole thing is it has to do with negative connotations. It's not something you ever wanted. Okay, obviously the chofer guma v'tzarich le'afra is a little bit different. It's harder to fit that into Rashi's categorization. But you could also, again, like anything, when you have different commentary, you can fit it in somehow. But the dead body really works very well according to Rashi, because it's saying it's something negative. Okay, you don't want it. And you didn't want to ever have to even be in this situation. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to go back to the beginning. We started with, you take out food in a utensil. The food doesn't have enough of a shiur for carrying, and the kli is insignificant compared to the food. Therefore, you're not obligated at all. The Gemara now brings a braita. What if you take out food that is a shiur that you're chayav in a utensil? So obviously, what would you say? You're obligated for the food. You're not obligated for the utensil because the utensil is secondary. But now, Tanu Rabbanan, hamotzi ochalin kishiur, im bekli chayav al ochalin upatur al kli. If you carry them out in a utensil, like I said, this would be obvious. You're obligated for the food. You're not obligated for the utensil. Ve'im haya kli tzarich lo chayav. But let's say I borrowed some flour from you, and now I want to return the flour, and I borrowed it. When I borrowed it from you, I took it in a bowl. So now what am I doing? I take it out on Shabbat. I bring you back your flour, and I bring it back in your kli. Well, I obviously intended to carry the kli because I also have a purpose for getting you the kli. So therefore, I've taken out the kli with intent. In this case, you're also going to be obligated for the utensil. Shma mina ochel shnei zeitei chelev behelem echad chayav shtayim. Now, what did it say? It said you're obligated for the food and for carrying the food, and you're obligated for carrying the kli. Now, let's go backwards to the beginning of chapter 7. What did we learn? When you do one malacha, but you do, let's say, a bunch of times, and you didn't know that it was usher to do, and then you find out that you made a mistake, what do we say? How many korbanot chatat do you have to bring? Depends how many malachot you did. In this case, you did one malacha of carrying. How many korbanot chatat, sin offerings, are you supposed to bring? One. What does it say here? You're chayav af ala kli. It sounds like you have to bring 2. So they say, it sounds like from here, that if you ate 2 zeitim of chelev, now they're going back to the classic case of a sin offering, not having to do with Shabbat. If you ate forbidden fats, forgot that you had, right, you didn't know, and then you find out, and you had done it twice, you'd be obligated twice, it sounds like, because here it says you're obligated for carrying both the kli and the food. So that seems very difficult, because we know that that's not the case. So we're going to have 2 different answers. Amar Rav Ashi, hacha b'mayaskinan kigon sheshagag ala ochalim be'ezid ala kli. How on earth could we have a scenario where you'd be obligated to? Well, maybe it was that there were really 2 different things going on here. You were unwitting when it came to the food. You didn't know that it was usher to carry out food. Maybe you didn't know this amount was obligated. Maybe you carried exactly a fig, and you didn't know a fig was the size. But hezid ala kli, but you knew it was forbidden to carry out a kli. So you're going to get skila, stoning, for the kli, and on the food, you would be unwitting about the food. So maybe that's what we're talking about here. And therefore, your chayav af ala kli means, well, you're obligated one thing for the kli and one thing for, it's not like you did both shogeg. It's a very creative answer. It's not exactly the pshat of what's going on there, that there's a shogeg and there's also a mazid where you're intentional about one part and unwitting about the other. It sounds a little bit strange, but he needs to come up with an answer as to how you'd be obligated to. Matkifla Ravashi. Ravashi says there's no way that that's what's going on here, because it says v'ha af ala kli katani. It says even on the kli. Okay, even on the kli makes it sound like it's going to be the same. So if it says af ala kli, it sounds like it's going to be exactly the same thing, even on the kli. So now he says that can't possibly be, that one is on purpose and one is accidental. Can't be. Ela amar Ravashi kigon sheshagag bezeh ubezeh v'nodalo v'chazar v'nodalo. What happened? This goes back to something we saw previously. If somebody was unwitting about the same thing, let's say, or 2 things, or whatever it was, and then found out later on, oh, do you know, remember, any sin offering, there has to be a yedi'ah. There has to be some point where he learns that what he did was wrong. So first, the person finds out, let's say, that it was usher for him to carry out the food. Then he finds out that it was also forbidden for him to carry out the utensil. If it happened at different times, if you remember, there's a machloket, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, about how many korbanot chatat he needs to bring. I charted this out on the sheet in a table if you want to look. So what happened? Ubepluta to Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, and then this is all based on the machloket, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. So how does it work? Rabbi Yochanan said, Yidiyot mechalkot. That means every time you hear that you did something wrong, that distinguishes it from another yidiyah. So if I did 2 things and then find out in one fell swoop, oh, by the way, did you forget it was Shabbat? Then I only bring 1 korban chatat. But if I found out, I knew it was Shabbat, I just didn't know that it was forbidden to take out the food. And then I didn't know if it was forbidden to take out the utensil. And I find out in 2 separate occasions, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because I found out on 2 separate occasions, I'm obligated a korban for each one. Then comes the Rish Lakish. So that matches Rav Ashi, and that's why Rav Ashi says that's why you're chayav af ala kli. But Rish Lakish said no, yediot ein mechalkot. You're only chayav 1, and that was the way Rav Sheshet understood it. So because of that, he had to come up with this creative explanation that it was shogeg and mazid. So now moving on to the next part. Our topic is going to be now chai noseh atzmo. The part about the bed is insignificant. We already kind of resolved that with the kli. It's the same idea. But now we're going to talk about this concept of chai noseh atzmo. So this is the Mishnah. If you carry a live person in a bed, you're exempt even for the bed. But again, our focus is going to be on the live person that you're carrying. Are we going to say that our Mishnah only follows Rabbi Natan's opinion and not the rabbis? Why? Titania, the Mishnah assumes that Chai Noseh Atzmo, a live person carries himself, and therefore you're not obligated by Torah law for carrying a live person. This is, by the way, the issue. When you don't have an Eruv, are you allowed to carry children? So if they can't walk themselves, then it's forbidden on a Torah level. If they can walk, then it's forbidden midrabanan. It's still forbidden, but it's only a rabbinic prohibition and not from the Torah. So now it says, here's Rabbi Natan's opinion. Ditanya, hamotzi behema chayav va'of l'reshut harabim. If you carry out an animal, a bird, right, or a domesticated, undomesticated animal, or a bird into the public domain, bein chayim, bein shchutim chayav, whether they're alive or whether they're dead, you're going to be obligated. Rabbi Natan omer, ala shchutim chayav, ala chayim patur. He says, if they're alive, then you're not obligated. Why are you not obligated? Again, by Torah law, because shachai noseh atzmo. So what do you see here? Machloket Rabbi Natan and the rabbis, whether or not chai noseh atzmo, which sounds like our Mishnah would only be holding like Rabbi Natan, which would be strange. Why would our Mishnah hold like a minority opinion? So the Gemara says, or Rava says, Amar Rava, no, you misunderstood the machloket between them. Notice that our Mishnah is talking about humans, and that Mishnah is talking, that Braita is talking about animals. So Rava says, Afilu tema Rabbanan. Ad kalo pligi Rabbanan alei de Rabbi Natan. You could say that Rabbanan would agree in a human case that Chai Noseh Atzmo. The issue is animals. Why? Lo pligi alei Rabbanan alei de Rabbi Natan. Ela bebehema chayav va'of. Why? Timishar b'tei nafshayu. Imagine you try to grab an animal. You know what happens. The animal squirms and moves around and doesn't want to be carried by a human. So therefore, when you start carrying this animal, the animal fights against you. It's the exact opposite of Chai Noseh Atzmo, because it doesn't really help you out. He's kind of flailing there, and it's going to make it much more difficult for you to carry, in which case the Rabbanan say you're obligated. But that wouldn't be the same if you're carrying a person. So therefore, the machloket between them is only an animal case. Okay, so therefore, even Rabbanan would agree, Aval Adam, de Chai Noseh Atzmo, afilu Rabbanan modu. But when it comes to Chai Noseh Atzmo, in a human case, people will agree that you're not obligated. The rabbis will agree that you're not obligated by Torah law. So right now, we're assuming that the machloket between Rabbi Natan and the rabbis, according to Rava, is only in an animal case. But when it comes to humans, they all agree that Chai Noseh Atzmo. So now we're going to have a question on that. Amalei Rava Adabar Ahava l'Rava. The Haditnan, and now we're getting off on a totally different topic. It says in the following, in the Mishnah, Ben b'tera matir b'sus. He allows a horse. Now he's not talking about carrying. He's talking about a whole separate issue. You're not allowed to sell large animals to non-Jews. What's the issue? The issue is by rabbinic law that you can't do this, and it's only large animals. Large animals are generally used for work purposes. Now your animals are forbidden to work on Shabbat. Okay, so you would say, so what? I could sell my animal to a non-Jew, and the non-Jew can work the animal on Shabbat. What does that have to do with me? That should be fine. It's true. It is fine by Torah law. However, the rabbis said that we're going to have an issue with that. If you sell to a non-Jew large animals, you might actually come to lend them animals or rent them animals. Now, if you rent them animals, that's forbidden because then your animal is going to end up working on Shabbat, and that's asur. So the rabbis came and said, you're not allowed to sell them animals because you might come to end up renting them and lending them. So therefore, that's the basis of what that's the background to what we're learning here. Ben b'tera matir b'sus. He allows it when it comes to a horse. Okay. Vitanya, why by a horse? Well, there's a Braita that explains. Ben b'tera matir b'sus mipnei she'oseh bo melacha. Why? Mipnei she'oseh bo melacha she'ein chayavin alav chatat. This was all a rabbinic prohibition because the animal might work on Shabbat. And what kind of work does a horse do? A horse doesn't plow your field. Plowing your field would be forbidden midoraita by Torah law. But he does melacha. What does a horse do? He carries people. So carrying people and taking them out, or 4 amot and reshut harabim, would be only rabbinic because Chai Noseh Atzmo. So therefore, what do you see here? Okay, but Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Now, what's the important part? The important part is he's talking about humans, He's talking about animals, but the point is, the Chai Nosei Tatzmo issue has to do with humans. And what does he say here? Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Betecha veRabbi Natan amru davar echad. Comes in Rabbi Yochanan and he says, look, Ben Beteira's opinion, the Chai Nosei Tatzmo is significant, matches Rabbi Natan, who says the Chai Nosei Tatzmo is significant. Right? We take it into consideration. Now that seems to imply only Rabbi Natan and not the rabbis. And we're talking about horses carrying humans, and the humans are the ones who are Nosei Tatzmo. So Rabbi tried to say that the rabbis even would hold this, but it seems clear that Rabbi Yochanan didn't think the rabbis held this way, because if you want to say, like Rava said, which is the rabbis agree with him when it comes to humans, when it's only by animals they disagree because the animals flail around, why would you say Ben Beteira holds like Rabbi Natan? You would say, right? You would say Ben Beteira holds like everybody. So here comes our creative answer. We're having a lot of these creative answers today. We're talking about horses, specifically what horses does he allow? What's Rabbi Yochanan referring to when he says they say the same thing? It's horses that carry birds. Okay, that's the issue. Horses carry birds, and that's why Chai Nosei Tatzmo is an issue for animals, because it's the animals, the birds, it's the birds that he's carrying that we're concerned with. Are they Nosei Tatzmo or not? And that only Rabbi Natan would agree. So the Gemara asks, is there really such a thing? The birds really, the birds that are carried by horses? The Gemara says, yeah, in fact there are in Ika Debe Vayadan. Okay, in the house of Vayadan, this is what they would do. They would have these birds. They would carry these large predator birds, and they would carry them even when they were alive. Okay, and they would use them to capture other birds or something like that. So they actually did use horses for this purpose, and that's what they were referring to, and that's why it's only Rabbi Natan's opinion, because it doesn't have anything to do with Chai Nosei Tatzmo by humans, and that's how they answer the question. Another thing that Rabbi Yochanan says about Rabbi Natan, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Umodeh Rabbi Natan bekafut. Rabbi Natan will agree, though, that Chai Nosei Tatzmo is not relevant if the person or the animal is bound. If they're bound, then they can't walk or move themselves, and therefore you wouldn't be obligated. Okay, I'm sorry, you would be obligated in that case. If the person was bound and can't help at all, then you would. Okay, here comes another interesting question. What about the Parsim? There's Persians. Now we're going back to understanding the case of Ben Beteira, that he allows it in a horse, would be even if the horse is carrying humans. Now the horse, because remember, we only answered that question because we were kind of put in a corner about Rabbi Yochanan, but theoretically they're going to say like this. There's all these Persians, and what do? They wear very big armor, and they're very, I don't know what the word is, but maybe arrogant, and they ride on horses all the time. They never walk. Right? They never, ever walk, and therefore they are like they're bound because, and this is an interesting assumption, the people assumed that they can't really walk. Okay, first of all, they wear this heavy armor. It's impossible to walk when you're wearing such heavy armor, and they only ride on horses. So there's this assumption that they actually can't walk. So therefore, they should be considered Chai Eino Nosei Tatzmo because they can't even walk. So now they come and say, well, notice he said, you can sell these horses, and we know that we're selling horses to non-Jews. Half of them, let's say, or certainly a decent percentage of the non-Jews they were selling to were Persians because that's where they live. So, right, that's who the people they associated with. So what do you see? You can sell to them even though maybe they're going to have Persians riding on them and they're not Nosei Tatzmo. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Beteira of Rabbi Natan amru davar echad. So how can you possibly say that Rabbi Natan will modeh b'kafut? If he's modeh b'kafut, then you shouldn't be allowed to sell to Persians who can't walk. So the Gemara says, no, you're misunderstanding these Persians. It's not that they can't walk. Hatam ramut ruchu denakit lehu. It's because they're arrogant and they want to be pampered, and that's what's going on here. How do we know this? And really, they can walk. Okay, now, in case you didn't know that they really can walk, because it sounds like they really were suspect, they bring a story to prove that I once saw a Persian walk, and that's how I know they can walk. What was the situation? Dahu Pardashcha. This is one of those stories where you kind of wish you had all the details. They're just telling you a very small part of the story. But there was an officer. There was a Persian officer who was in his armor and all decked out. And the king got angry at him for some reason. We don't know why. And he got off his horse and he ran away from that king super fast. And all of a sudden they realized, oh, I guess these Persians can walk. So anyway, that's why the Persians don't create a problem, because they really are no se'etzmo. They just don't. They choose not to. Now we're going to move into the malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. Okay, we're moving part by part through the topics in the Mishnah. Amar Rabba Barbar, v'chein kezayit min, sorry, I skipped the line. Ve'et hamet b'mitah chaya, v'chein kezayit min hamet. So now they're just quoting the line in the Mishnah. Amar Rabba Barbar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, right? Often Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish argue. Here we have someone in the name of Rabbi Yochanan and someone else in the name of Rish Lakish who both said the same thing. Poter haya Rabbi Shimon af b'motzi et hamet lekavlo. Normally we talk about taking out a mate. We're taking out the mate to get him out of the house. But now we're going to say that if you take out a mate to bury, maybe you would have thought you're taking it out for a purpose, to bury. That maybe would be malacha she'tzricha legufa. But they come and say no. Even taking it out to bury would still be malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. So now you have to go back to Rashi and Tosfot. This works a little better according to Rashi, because Rashi says it's something you don't really want to have to deal with, and nobody really wants to have to deal with burying the dead, and therefore you're taking it out again for it's negative reasons. It's not something positive and creative. You're trying to bury the person. Tosfot would have to say again, to take something out is because you actually want to use it. Now, when you want to bury this person, you're not using the dead body. It's not for any use that they've used in the Mishkan. You're just burying it. So it's true, it's for a purpose, but it's not for a purpose that the way they did it in the Mishkan. Amar Rava. Now Rava says, but in the following case, Umodi Rabbi Shimon b'mar lachpor bo v'sefer Torah likrot bo dechaya. If you take out a spade to dig with, or you take out a sefer Torah to read, then you're going to be obligated. Okay, now this is quite strange. Of course you're going to be obligated. That's a malacha. You're carrying something out for a positive use. So the Gemara says, pshita, obviously that's called malacha tzricha legufa. Di'i hanami malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. If you want to say taking out a sefer Torah to read it is a malacha she'ena tzricha legufa, well then, ela malacha she'tzricha legufa le Rabbi Shimon hechi mishkachala. What on earth case would be tzricha legufa? In other words, you basically end up saying there's no such thing as malacha according to Rabbi Shimon, because anything can somehow be explained as einat tzricha legufa. So why did you even bother telling us that Rabbi Shimon's mechayev? Obviously, he makes you obligated, and he's going to say you're obligated. So the Gemara says, well, you might have thought the following. Elam ma'u detema. You might have thought de'ika ligufo u'ligufa. Maybe a malacha had tzricha legufa, which is basically a malacha that you're obligated for. According to Rabbi Shimon, maybe would be that you're taking it out for gufo and gufa. What does that mean? You need, when you took this item out, you need to do something for that item and use it for yourself. So what does this mean? Kigon, mar la'asot lo tas v'lachpor. Maybe you're taking out the spade because number one, you need to fix the spade. And number two, then you want to use it to dig a hole. Or a sefer Torah, lahagia ulikrotbo. Maybe you'd only be obligated, again, you have to take out the item because you need to do something to that item itself. You need to correct the sefer Torah, and then you're going to read it. Maybe ligufa means two things. Ligufo for the guf of the item itself. For it needs something that you're taking it out for, and you need the item itself for your own purposes. So you might have thought that that's the case. Kamash malan, that it's not the case. Okay, therefore they told you that no, Rabbi Shimon doesn't actually go that far. It would be strange to think he would go this far. We have a lot of, today's Dafa has a lot of suggestions or answers that are a little bit out there, but that is the way the Gemara works, right? Where they suggest all sorts of things. When things don't make sense, like, why were you telling us that this is us or according to Rabbi Shimon? It's obviously what else is going to be malacha. So they need to come up with some creative thing that you might have thought to explain why that is. Now we're going to have a story. Haush Chava, there was a dead body. Dahava b'Drokra, it was in the city of Drokra. Shara Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak la'afuke lekarmeli. Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak said, you can take this body out to a Carmelite. Remember, a Carmelite is in between a Reshut Rabim and a Reshut Yachid. It's not either one really, and it's only forbidden from rabbinic law to take something into a Carmelite. So now there's a big problem with this. We said about a mate that it's malcha she'ena tzricha legufan. So that's good. Rabbi Shimon is poter. But what does poter mean? Remember, he says you're exempt by Torah law, but it's forbidden by rabbinic law. So comes the Rabbi Yochanan, Amarle Rabbi Yochanan, Achua de Marbarei de Ravna, not the regular Rabbi Yochanan, but the one who was the brother of Marbarei de Ravna. And he says to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Keman, who are you holding like that? You allowed this kind of thing, right? You can imagine the scenario. He mati or something, he allows it, and the rabbi next door says, what on earth are you doing? You can't do that. So he says to him, Keman ke Rabbi Shimon, what? You're holding like Rabbi Shimon, the melacha she'en tzricha legufa is patur? Imer de patur Rabbi Shimon, michiyuv chatat. He exempts you from sin offering, meaning on a Doraita level. But he's surah de Rabbana miya'ika, but it's forbidden by rabbinic law. So how on earth did you do this? So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak comes back and says, Amarle, Elohim, I swear in the name of God, di'iyalt be'at afilu l'Rabbi Yehuda share, demi kamina l'Reshut Harabim l'Karmelit kamina. He says, I swear this is totally fine what I did, because when he took it out, even Rabbi Yehuda would say this is okay. Why? Because I wasn't taking it. Now Rabbi Yehuda says it's asur midoraita. What does he say? I wasn't taking it out to a Reshut Harabim. It wasn't like I was taking it from private to a public. I was only doing something that's forbidden by the rabbis. Still, it's forbidden. So why are you allowing it? So he says, Gadol Kvod Habriot, our favorite line, human dignity is more important than a lo taseh in the Torah. Now, what's the lo taseh? This is only Rabbanan, but we've explained this before. Lo tasur min hadavar sheyagidu lecha yamin u'smol. That means you can't differ from what the rabbis tell you. So rabbinic laws actually are considered Torah somehow, right? That in the Torah it says you have to follow the rabbis. So what does he come and say? It's sure I have to follow the rabbis, but not when there's an issue of human dignity at stake. And here we have this dead body, and it's not respectful to leave it where it is. And therefore, I allowed him to take it out in a way that was only rabbinic law, and I'm allowed to do that for the sake of human dignity. Okay, and therefore, what's interesting about this, Kvod Habriot comes up when it comes to a dead body. You would think, right, it's only people who are alive, and here you see how far we go with human dignity, and in general, you see the way we treat dead bodies with a lot of kavod, and here you see it in the Gemara. It's not hatam. Now we're moving on to a different topic, which is going to soon connect back to our Mishnah. The topic is tzara'at. If you have leprosy, there's certain leprous marks that you can have, and the pasuk says hishamer b'nega hatzara'at, which means you should protect the nega tzara'at. What does it mean to protect it? It means that if you have a nega tzara'at, there's a process you go through to become pure. You're not allowed to pick it off. If there's hairs in it that are problematic, you can't pick out the hairs. If it's something on your skin, you can't burn it off. You're not allowed to do that. It's asur from the Torah to take an active role to take it off on your own. That's forbidden. So now they say, Tolesh simane tum'ah v'hakava michya. If you pluck out hairs or you burn off a piece of their skin there, that's where the leprous mark is, over below taseh. It's forbidden by, it's a negative commandment in the Torah. Itmar. Now there's a machloket. With the hairs, if you have 2 hairs, that's leprous. If you have less than 2 hairs, it's no longer leprous. So now the question becomes, how many hairs do you have to pluck out for it to be a problem? And it sort of depends on how many hairs were there to begin with. So if you have 2 hairs and you pluck out 1, you've already brought yourself down to no longer impure because you only have 1 hair. That would be forbidden, right? Achat mishtayim chayav, because you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to create a situation where you've taken off the leprosy from yourself. So achat mishtayim chayav. Achat mishalosh, if it's 1 out of 3 hairs, you're still leaving yourself 2 hairs. So that means that you actually haven't removed the impurity from you. So that shouldn't be forbidden. But there's a machloket about this. Rav Nachman amar chayav, Rav Sheshet amar patur. So Rav Nachman says that's still forbidden. Rav Sheshet says no. Let's explain why. Rav Nachman amar chayav, because ahane ma'asav. When you plucked out that 1 out of 3 hairs, you still have 2. So it's true you haven't really done anything. However, this is what we've come across this before. It's like a chatzi shiur. You've done something on the way to something else. So he says what you've done is actually, you've succeeded in doing something. That's what it means, ahane ma'asav. It's worked what you've done. Because if you were to pluck out another one down the road, your tuma will have left you. So you didn't act on the way to doing a full act. So it's only half, but you've done something that could eventually cause you to actually remove the tuma, which is forbidden. Rav Sheshet Amar Patur, for the obvious reason, Hashdamia Ha'ita L'Tuma. At this point, you're still impure. So you haven't taken off your leprous status. So Amar Rav Sheshet Mina Aminala. Rav Sheshet says, how can I prove my point to you? Says, well, let's take it from our Mishnah. And that's how we get back here. That's how it connects to our Mishnah. Ditznan, as it says in our Mishnah, B'chein kazayim min ameid, u'kazayim min anavela chayav. Now this seems to imply if you carry out kazayim min ameid or kazayim min anavela, according to Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, you'll be obligated by Torah law. Sounds like, what can you infer from our Mishnah? Ha chatzi zayid patul. But if you only took a half a zayid out of the house, you'd actually be exempt. The Hatanya, but there's a different Braita that seems to disagree with this inference. Chatzi zayit chayav. It says if you remove a chatzi zayit from your house, you're obligated. So, my love, hadatanya chayav. So now they're going to have to explain. Rav Sheshet is going to say, how do we deal with the contradiction from the inference from our Mishnah that if you took a chatzi zayit, you'd be exempt, versus the Braita itself, which says if you take a chatzi zayit, you're going to be chayav. So he says the distinction must be. My love, hadatanya chayav. When it says you're obligated, it must be da'apik chatzi zayit mikizayit. What did you do? You took out. Now we didn't really view the case this way, but what are you really trying to do when you take the? You want to get. I mean, we did discuss this, but we didn't focus on it when I said it when we learned the Mishnah. You're trying to get the tuma out of your house. So if tuma is impurity of a dead body is the size of an olive. Let's say you take out a half a zayit. Okay, according to the Braita, if you take out half a zayid, you're obligated. So comes Rav Sheshet and he says it must be when you're obligated, it's where you took out half a zayid from a whole zayid. So now what did you do? You got rid of the impurity in your house. At this point, you only have half a zayid left in your house. So even though you've only taken out half a zayid, you've actually affected change in your house. So Rabbi Yehuda would say, you've done something significant. You've now removed the tumah from your house. So you're obligated. Again, Rabbi Shimon thinks this is all malacha she'en tzricha legufa because you're all removing and that's not your patur. But Rabbi Yehuda says, we don't care that it's malacha she'en tzricha legufa. You're going to be obligated in any case. So what have you done? You've removed tumah from your house because there's only a half a zayit left. So you've done an effective act. So that's the case of the Braita where it says explicitly that you're obligated for a chatzi zayit. And then, haditznam patur in our Mishnah, where it seems to imply only if you took out a whole zayit, what would be the case? There was a kazayit and a half in your house. You took out a half a zayit. So outside, you didn't take out enough, right? And inside, you still left a whole zayit. So what does Rosh Hashanah prove from here? You see that even though I did something that's maybe on my way to doing something, because if I were to take out another chatzi zayit, I'd actually be obligated. But at this point, you haven't done anything, so therefore you're exempt. And that's what he says. That's how he reads our Mishnah, and therefore our Mishnah, he thinks, proves the case about the tzarad, about plucking out one hair out of three. For Rav Nachman, how does he explain this? He says, no, I could resolve your contradiction differently. He says very simply, idi v'idi chayav. I disagree with your inference from our Mishnah. It says, v'haditznam patur da'afik chatzi zayit mimeit gadol. You could infer that from our Mishnah, but our Mishnah really means you're only obligated a kazayit from a mate if it's a kazayit from, let's say, a whole body of a dead body. In that case, you can't say I'm on my way to doing something because there's still a huge body there that's full of hundreds of zaytin, really, in terms of size. So therefore, if you take a half a zayit from a mate gadol, then Rav Nachman says that's the inference from our Mishnah. But if you took a chetzi zayit from a kazayit and a half, Rav Nachman would think that you're obligated because you're on your way to doing something of significance. Okay, so again, this is very interesting because it's all about, goes back to concepts we talked about otherwise. How do we view chatzi shiur? We talk about all these requisite amounts and the importance of them. What about if it's less than the requisite amount? It's almost similar to what we talked about in the beginning, the tafel and ikar. Do we view it as non-existent? A chatzi shiur is nothing, just like a davar that's tafel, it's insignificant. We don't view it as anything. Or do we say it's there, but at this point, it's not significant enough. But if we add to it or do something to it, it could become significant, has potential. So that's the machloka really between Rav Nachman and Rav Sheshet. Next Mishnah. Hanotel tzipornav zo bezo. Let's say you peel, okay, this is, right, people do this. Apparently people did it then too. Makes sense. Where you pick your nails, basically, with your other nails, and you peel your nail off. If you do that, okay, this is a tolada of gozez, of shearing sheep. You're kind of taking off parts of your body. So if you take them off with your fingernails, o b'shinav, or with your teeth, apparently people bit their nails also in those days. B'chein sa'aro, b'chein sfamo, if you pluck out hairs or your mustache hairs, b'chein skano, or your beard, b'chein hagodelet, b'chein hakochelet, b'chein hapokeset. These are three types of things that women would do. Either godelet seems to be braiding their hair, kochelet is putting on eyeshadow, and pokeset, there's a bunch of different opinions, whether it's putting some like a clay type substance on their faces and they would remove it and it would work like blush, it would redden their cheeks, or some sort of thing that they would put in their hair, kind of like a gel that keeps their hair in place. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev v'chachamim osrim mishum shvut. Osrim mishum shvut is another term for patur aval asur. It means it's forbidden by the rabbis. So Rabbi Eliezer says all these are asur midoraita, and the rabbis say all these things are only forbidden by rabbinic law. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar, not to be confused with Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is the Tana in the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar is an Emora, someone living in the Gemara time period from Israel. He says, Machloket biyad aval bekli chayav. He says their whole debate about is it asur midoraita or the Rabbanan when it comes to picking your nails is only with your hands. But if you did it with a utensil, everyone would agree you're obligated. The Gemara says, why are you telling us this? Pshita, it's obvious. Zo bezotnan, it says, if you take your nails off, picking your nails with your fingers. That's what it says. So what do they answer? So obviously their machloket is biyad and not bikli. So they say, no, ma'u detema rabbanan bikli nami patle. Maybe the rabbis would even exempt with a kli. They'd say it's only rabbinic in nature. Maybe cutting nails in general is only rabbinic. You might have thought that when it says zo bazo, it was stressing, even if you do it with your hands, Rabbi Eliezer still thinks it's forbidden midoraita. But if you did it with a kli, the rabbis would still agree that it's midorabanan. Therefore, kamash malan. That's what Rabbi Elazar needed to tell us. No, that's not the case. They disagree only about the case of with your hands. But Amar Rabbi Elazar, by the way, this is similar to borer, where they make distinctions between with a kli and biyad. Right? It makes sense in the world of Melechet Machshevet, something's more significant if you do it with a utensil. So we can see how one might distinguish between your hands and a utensil. Another statement of Rabbi Elazar, Machloket latzmo, aval lachabero divrei hakol patur. This is an interesting one. It's only if you pick your own nails, but if you pick your friend's nails, everybody agrees that it's only asur midorabanan. Okay, now, right, you're laughing. Why would this be? So, pshita, tzipornav tnan. Obviously, it's only your own nails. It says so in the Mishnah. Tzipornav, your nails. Right? The Mishnah wasn't talking about someone else's nails. So they say tzipornav tnan. That's what it says in the Mishnah. So they say ma'u detema Rabbi Eliezer lechavero nami mechayev. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer would say lechavero, you're also obligated by Torah law. So then why would it say your nails? Because again, this is the flip of the previous sugya, the mirror image. You might have thought it's saying even your own nails, the rabbis say, are only derabanan. For sure your friend's nails, but even your own nails, whereas Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah would say, no, your nails and your friend's nails are asur midoraita. Kamash malan. That's why Rabbi Elazar needed to tell us no. When it comes to your friend's nails, it's allowed. Or again, it's allowed by Torah law, not by rabbinic law. Now, why is this? The obvious reason is because it's not a normal thing to do, okay? Some people actually say because it's disgusting. Okay, it's disgusting to pick your friend's nails. I don't know if anyone's ever tried this before. I don't think so. But anyway, it's something disgusting and it's something that's atypical and therefore it's not going to be forbidden midoraita. So we don't call this a melechet machshevet, thankfully. So now what about the hair? So how much hair do you pluck? Is it going to be chayav in tolesh? Okay, or again, this could be tolesh. Really, actually, it's gozez, because gozez is really sharing the sheep. It's the same there. So your hair. Tana, hanotel malo pi hazug chayav. The zug is a pair. Scissors were called a pair in those days because remember, we talked about the two knives, they stick together, they would come apart and put them back together. So it's a pair. So it says in the Tosefta, if you cut a whole, they say the scissors worth. Okay, what's a scissors worth? Chayav v'kama melo piazug. How much? Amar Rav Yehuda shtayim. He says that must be 2. So they say, but wait, in that same Tosefta, it says ulet korcha shtayim. When it comes to, it's forbidden to make yourself bald out of avelut for mourning purposes. So how much is considered making yourself bald? It's by taking out 2 hairs. That's what makes you bald. So now they say, therefore, it says piazug is 1, korcha shtayim, right? Piazug, they say, should be 2, but korcha it says 2, so it doesn't make sense. So they say, v'chein lekorcha shtayim. They say, like they say, korcha has the same criteria as piazug and it's shtayim, and therefore it's not a problem. Tanya nami hachi, here's a bright to support. Hanotel malo piazug v'shabbat chayav v'kama malo piazug shtayim. Rabbi Eliezer omer achat. Here you see it's a machloket, but you see the opinion that it's 2. Umodim chachamim leRabbi Eliezer b'melaket levanot mitoch shchorot. If you pick white hairs out of black hairs, shafilu achat chayav v'davar ze af bechol asor mishum shenemar lo yabash gever simlat isha. Very interesting halacha that it's forbidden for men to pluck out gray hairs because that's something that women do and not men, and therefore it's obligated. It's forbidden for other reasons, not even on a regular day, not only on Shabbat. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar omer, Tziporen sheperesh ruba v'tzitzin shepershu ruban. What if you have a nail that gets cut off, or the skin next to your nail gets peeling off on Shabbat? Are you allowed to take it off? So if it's the majority of it, biyad mutar b'kli chayav. You can't do it in a kli. It's asur midoraita, but biyad you're allowed to do by hand. So now they say chatat chayav chatat. Umi'i kamidi de b'kli chayav chatat ubiyad mutar l'chatchila. Could there be such a thing that you're going to be obligated midoraita for if you do it with a utensil, and then to the other extreme, you're going to be allowed to do it biyad? Hachi kamar. So they say, no, really, this is the way you should read it. Pershu ruban biyad mutar b'kli patur. If the majority of it came off, then if you do it by hand, it's allowed. If you do it with a utensil, it's the middle case. It's patur v'alasur. Lo pershu ruban, but if the majority hasn't come off, biyad patur v'alasur b'kli chayav chatat. Then by hand, you'll be exempt. You'll be exempt by Torah law, but not by rabbinic law. And then b'kli, you be chayav midoraita. So they come up with these in-between cases. Amar Rav Yehuda, last point for today. Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Okay, we hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And then Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, behu shepershu klape malo mitzarot oto. Says something very interesting, and this causes a whole issue. Halacha l'maaseh. Says, well, it's true that if the majority of it falls off, this, by the way, happens all the time, right? Your nail starts cutting off on Shabbat. Are you allowed to take it off or not? So he says, as long as it starts coming out klape mala. Now, the problem is the Mepharshim can't figure out what exactly it means. Klape mala, there's a debate about it. And because of that, the Mishnah Berurah and others say we should be machmir because we don't really know in which case this is allowed. And therefore, one should be more cautious about this and not just say, oh, yeah, I can take it off. Okay, with that, we'll finish for today. Sorry, there were some technical issues with the Zoom today. But I don't know what's with my internet. Hopefully, it will be resolved soon. Okay.